Albert Einstein said the distinction between past, present and future is only a particularly persistent illusion. Both time and space are perceived differently from person to person. Space-time is only an illusion, and everything exists in the present moment. According to French astrophysicist, theorist and cosmologist Marc Lachaise-Ray, time is not universal. He propagates that in nature the ideas of present, past and future occur in a personal way. All those time spans that we can measure with a cell phone or even with atomic clocks, we could not bring together. The impression we have of the coincidence of time periods is an illusion. We have today many physics experiments, many observations of physical systems that show very clearly that there is no time. It is not time that passes, but it is I who go through the universe and I discover the events that exist in a timeless way. Sometimes we focus on something and feel that time has passed in an instant, but at other times time seems to be eternal. Thousands of years ago, the Indian Vedas already spoke about this, which said that without consciousness there is no world, no time, nothingness. Everything is spirit. There is no beginning and no end. Time as such exists only in our human brain. In other words, our mind has created a concept of time based on our false perception and limited mind. In everyday life, it doesn't matter whether time is real or not, but the fact is that the measurement of time has become fundamental to our lives, and there is no denying it. The obsession with measuring this scale started about 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. Before that, people had no idea about it. They didn't even think about it. They just divided time into days and nights. But when people began to coordinate their actions, for example, two people wanting to meet with each other, the need for a system to measure time arose. Thus, an incredible variety of instruments emerged, each more sophisticated than the other, such as the ancient hourglass consists of two glass cavities connected by a narrow opening. The sand flows from the upper to the lower part, and depending on the amount of sand, a certain amount of time is measured. Water clocks, called clepsydras, work by measuring the amount of water that drips from one container to another. Their invention is very old. The Egyptians attributed it to Hermes Trismegistus. This technology spread throughout the ancient world, and even in the early 20th century, people were still using it. The ancient Greeks and Romans built impressive towers to house their water clocks. In China, they were called lu, and they were usually made of bronze, but these were not very accurate. The incense clock was popularized in China between 960 and 1279 during the Song dynasty, and its use spread throughout East Asia. It had metal balls on a string, and when the incense was used up, the balls would fall down and sound a gong to announce the time. Candle clocks have numbered markings, and the measurement is based on the regularity of the melting of the burning candles. In ancient times, they were widely used in monasteries and night watches. A variant of these are the clocks of Al-Jazari, a 12th century Muslim engineer and scholar who created a rather complex candle clock with a system of discs and weights. The candles served not only as time tellers but also as alarm clocks. For this purpose, a metal nail was placed on the candle to indicate the desired time, and when the melted wax reached a certain height, the nail fell on the metal base and made a sound. The gnomon, for which the more common name sundial was later adopted, was invented independently by various cultures around the world. Sundials were used by the ancient Egyptians thousands of years ago, as well as by the Greeks, Chinese, Aztecs, Mayans, Incas and Romans. This device measures the time based on the shadow cast by the sun. The pendulum clock uses an oscillating weight to measure time, as its oscillations occur at equal time intervals. It was invented in 1656 by Dutch astronomer, mathematician and physicist Christian Huygens and was common until the 1930s because it was the most accurate system of its time. The origins of the cuckoo clock are not entirely clear, but there are records that as early as 1619 the Elector August of Saxony was in possession of a cuckoo clock. But it was not until the 18th century that cuckoo clocks, as we know them from old houses or museums, became widespread. These are equipped with a pendulum and a gong. Every half hour, an automated bird comes out of an opening and imitates the sound of the cuckoo. More modern are the quartz clock and the atomic clock. But perhaps the most impressive clocks are those that give their name to some towers or buildings, bell towers, of which the following are the most striking. The clock in Nuremberg Church of Our Lady, built between 1350 and 1358, is one of the oldest and was installed in 1509. At 12 noon you can watch the so-called Männleinlaufen, in which the figures perform for a few minutes. The clock in the tower of the Mecca Royal Hotel in Saudi Arabia is 601 meters high. This makes it the largest clock tower in the world. The tower consists of 4 clocks, one on each side. The clock face measures 43 meters in diameter and glows white during the day and green at night. A column rises from the top of the main tower, culminating in a 23-meter-high fiberglass crescent moon covered in gold. The Prague astronomical clock in the Czech Republic was installed in 1410 and is the oldest astronomical clock still in operation. Many tourists come here to see the famous moving figures, a procession in the upper windows of the clock where the 12 apostles appear, but in front of them figures like Turk, greed, vanity and death, the latter in the form of a skeleton that marks the beginning of the procession. Inaugurated in 1909, the carillon of the town hall on Marienplatz in Munich consists of a total of 43 bells, the largest of which weighs 1,300 kilograms. They play 4 different melodies, while 32 life-size figures perform a beautiful spectacle that attracts hundreds of tourists. The upper part depicts the 16th century wedding of Duke William V on horseback at a jousting tournament. The lower part shows the dance of the Schäffler, who dance every 7 years to commemorate the plague in 1517. The clock in the Musée d'Orsay Art Museum in Paris. The building was originally a train station that indicated the passage of travelers and the operation of the first electric trains between Paris and Orleans from 1900 until its closure in 1930. In 1970, it became one of the most important museums in Paris. The clock is located in a hall 32 meters high, 40 meters wide and 138 meters long. The bell clock in the Spasskaya Tower in Moscow, Russia, known as the Kremlin clock, was built between 1498 and 1585. It has a diameter of 6 meters, a mechanism of 25 tons and 4 bells that strike the quarter hours and the hours. The opal glass clock in the Grand Central Station in New York is perhaps the most expensive in the world, valued at nearly 20 million. And its timekeeping is so precise that it's accurate to within 1 second over a period of 2 million. In Germany, the Berlin Urania World Time Clock on Alexanderplatz weighs 16 tons, is 10 meters high and was built in 1969. At the top of the clock is a solar system consisting of a large central sphere representing the Sun, around which rotate several spheres of different sizes representing the planets of the solar system, each of whose revolutions corresponds to 1 minute. On the bottom of the clock there is a large mosaic representing a compass rose. Berlin clock, also called set-theory clock, was developed in 1975. It's divided into 24 luminous fields. In the first row, starting from the top, there are 4 lights. Each light turned on corresponds to 5 hours. In the second row, there are also 4 lights, each corresponding to 1 hour. In the third row, there are 11 lights, each corresponding to 5 past minutes, divided into 4 lights. Each light turned on shows individual minutes. The clock of flowing time in Berlin from 1982 shows how time passes through a transparent pipe through which green phosphor water flows. Other similar clocks also exist in the United States, Denmark, Holland, the United Kingdom and Japan. Of course, these clocks are only a small selection, as the number and variety of instruments built throughout history to measure time is enormous. All these are attempts to control and measure something that does not exist. And whether we like it or not, these devices keep us trapped as slaves in a dystopian and unnatural society. For animals and plants, there is no such thing as time. Maybe one day we will flow with nature as they do, without caring about years, days or seconds. But would we be able to live without clocks?